This follow-up to one of the best villain-focused films I had ever seen proved to be a major disappointment on every level. Not only did it fail to live up to the expectations set by its predecessor, it also contradicted and undid much of what had come before, resulting in a completely pointless project. Hello, and welcome back to another installment of Film Friday, in which I review a new film every single week. This week we are looking at the 2024 film entitled Joker, Folie, Deux, directed by Todd Phillips and starring Joaquin Phoenix. Let's get into it. This story picks up shortly after the end of the first film, with Arthur Fleck in custody at what is presumably Arkham Asylum. He's preparing to stand trial for the murders we previously saw him commit, of the men on the train and the talk show host Murray. Fleck meets with his defense lawyer, who explains that she can hope to get him acquitted if she can demonstrate that he is suffering from multiple personality disorder. During one of his trips to visit his lawyer, Fleck encounters the occupant of one of the lesser security facilities, who explains that she is an arsonist who is obsessed with Arthur Fleck's Joker persona. Flattered by the obsessive attention she offers him, Fleck instantly falls in love with her, and lets himself be guided by her advice rather than the advice of his attorney. However, as the trial proceeds, Fleck begins to reconsider his actions as Joker, and having fired his lawyer, chooses to represent himself instead, declaring himself to be guilty and worthy of punishment. Disgusted by this, Harley Quinn leaves him instantly. Now, despite the fact that the plot of this film was very bland at the end of the day, it also didn't successfully follow up on the events of the first film. Essentially, nothing else happens in this film other than the events of the trial, which spends the entire time discussing everything that we had previously seen in the first movie, Joker. And the verdict of guilty was completely predictable. Instead, the runtime was padded with these endless musical breaks, which didn't seem to serve any purpose to the story, and also felt like they went on forever. Furthermore, besides the fact that the music and the songs themselves were not very well written, their inclusion also felt extremely forced. It was as if the filmmakers had decided they wanted to make this sequel a musical no matter what, and then realized about halfway through production that this wasn't going to work and it was a terrible idea. But instead of course correcting, decided to lean into it, hoping that by overwhelming the audience with songs constantly for 2.5 hours, they would be too overwhelmed to notice how terrible all of it was. But the actual result of this decision was extreme boredom on the part of the viewer. And the film as a whole was nowhere near the quality of the first, in fact, undid many of the plot points from that first movie. For instance, the transformation of Arthur Fleck into Joker at the end of the first film was completely undermined by the insistence that Joker was just an alter ego entirely separate from Arthur Fleck. And at the end of the day, it was entirely unclear what point or message this film was supposed to provide. Also, there appeared to be an in-universe TV movie made about the Joker's story, which everyone seemed to have watched, but there was no explanation as to why such a thing was created in the first place. To be fair, the cinematography was still pretty much okay, and there were some great shots throughout, and the color palette, which was just brought over from the first movie, still worked well with this story. But looks alone were not enough to save this disaster of a film. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to comment your own thoughts on this film below, and don't forget to subscribe for more movie commentary and reviews.